This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 48.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on the 18 Strong Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Pellizzaro, and I'm actually recording this episode in beautiful, sunny Fort Walton Beach, Florida, on a little vacation with the family, hanging out at the beach. Got a chance to play a little round of golf with my brother-in-law and a couple of buddies. So having a great time, but as always, the show will go on, and the 18 Strong Podcast has another great episode this week with Robbie Cannon from Cannon Performance over in Dublin, Ireland. And Robbie has an awesome story. He is not only a golf fitness professional, working with some of the best over in Ireland. Shane Lowry is one of the top names that you might recognize. But Robbie is quite a player himself and has won several amateur events over in Ireland, including the Irish Amateur Open in 2013, and really is in touch with some of the best in Irish golf. Playing against the likes of Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry back in the day, Patrick Harrington, playing in some top-notch events. And Robbie found golf fitness years ago, and it has basically changed the way that he trains himself and became a passion of his where he loved it so much and wanted to utilize it to help make other golfers better. And that's when Robbie decided to create Cannon Performance. So we talk about a lot of different things, golf fitness related, a lot of Robbie's career and how his changes in training have really made his golf game or has taken it to a different level over the past several years. And so we get a great insight into what he's doing himself, but also what he's utilizing with his players, his teams. And he's a little bit on both sides of the coin. He's like you and me. He's a guy who's playing the game, loving the game, and trying to get better. And he's competing at some of the highest of levels over in Ireland. But he's also working with the golfers as well. And it's pretty cool to hear just some of his stories and some of the things that he's doing, and just reiterating a lot of the things that we talk about on the 18 Strong Podcast. So I'm going to let Robbie tell his story. So without further ado, I introduce Robbie Cannon. Hey, everybody. I've got Robbie Cannon on the line from Cannon Performance from all the way over in Ireland. Robbie, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, you bet, man. I'm looking forward to catching up and learning a lot more about you and what you're doing over there. I know we've been kind of touching base back and forth really over the past 6 months to a year or so, just about, what's going on with the 18 Strong Podcast and what you have going on. So for the listeners, Robbie is not only the owner of Cannon Performance, which is, basically a training company for golfers, high-level golfers, professionals, amateurs over in Ireland. But Robbie is also himself a very highly decorated amateur golfer. You won, the 2013 Irish Amateur Championship, as well as the 2009 South of Ireland. Is that correct, Robbie?
That is correct. Yeah, I got lucky a couple of times.
I think it's probably a little bit more than that. But you also work with Shane Lowry, so you were over at the Open this past week. You've got a lot of high-level golfers that you're working with over in Ireland. So if you could give the 18 Strong listeners a little bit of background on you, and then I would love for you to dive into your story about what brought you into the fitness world and how that has kind of changed your level of golf.
Sure. Yeah, I was actually quite a late comer to the game of golf. I didn't start playing till I was about 14, but before that I did play other sports. Like we have Gaelic football over here, which is a little bit like kind of rugby. We play soccer here as well, so I played soccer, Gaelic football, did a little bit of kind of track and field as well. Then I live quite close to the golf course, and how I got into golf was we used to go looking for golf balls when we were like in our early teens, and then sell them on to members, and then all of a sudden we started chipping around greens, and that led on to playing a bit more golf and actually joining the local golf club. But once I started playing golf, I was completely hooked with it, and I think my first year I got my handicap from 30 to 9, the next year 9 to 2, and within like 3 years I was scratch.
Wow.
But I did play every single hour that I could during them 3 years. So that's basically how I got into golf. So I think all the previous sports that I play, that was a huge factor how I picked up golf so quickly.
And then, so you started playing golf. Did you have a couple successes on the amateur circuit, and then that kind of got you a little bit more involved in more competitions?
Well, to be honest, the first few years that I played the amateur games in Ireland was kind of like the boys and youths. I didn't have a whole lot of success. I think the first bit of success I had was when I was 21. I played the Leinster Youth, which is a kind of a province, kind of like a state over here in Ireland. And GMAC, Graham McDowell, he birdied the last 2 holes to beat me. So that was my first kind of bit of success. On to the next season then, I got a little bit more consistent, had a lot of good finishes, got onto kind of the state team, which is a kind of interprovincial team that we have here. That got me onto Irish panel. But it was around that stage where I started to do a lot of gym work. And unknown to me at the time, this was before golf fitness became so popular, and I was going into the gym and I was basically working on all the wrong stuff. I was working on basically beach body muscles, and my golf definitely suffered for a few years because I was working on the wrong stuff and I was going backwards instead of forwards, which is basically one of the reasons why I got into golf fitness in the first place, because I felt I could give something back to the kids coming up today, and hopefully that they wouldn't make the same mistakes that I made when I was in my early 20s, because like who knows what might have happened. I may have had more success, but it certainly did not help me doing all the wrong stuff.
And so you mentioned, you were doing some of the wrong things, working on some of the beach body muscles, which all of us guys love to do. But how did that, you mentioned that it actually hindered you a little bit when you were on the course. In what way would you say that it did? And then what were some of the things that you ended up changing specifically to give the listeners a little better idea? Because I think a lot of us, when we're in that state early on in our careers or kind of new into the gym, we just go with what we've seen before, what we did in high school. And I think, to progress and continue doing that, some of these guys that are listening may be in the same state that you are, where, they're going through an exercise program. They know they should be working out, but maybe aren't quite doing the right stuff for their golf game. So what were some of the things you had to change?
Well, there's a couple of people who have been huge influences on my life and my career. So basically, I was always, as I said, into fitness, and TPI started kind of coming a little bit more popular around 2006, 2007. So I had a bit of an interest in it, and I was watching some stuff online. I was doing some of the stuff that was like on the website and stuff, but I didn't feel I was getting any better. Then I came across a golf coach from Dublin called John Kelly, good friend of mine, and I started getting lessons off him, and he performed a screen on me. And straight away he said, okay, your glutes are terrible. You've got no thoracic rotation. I couldn't believe it. I left the first lesson with him absolutely distraught, because I thought I was doing so much good stuff, and I thought I was fit and thought I was strong. But basically he said, no, you're not. So that was mind-boggling to me. And he introduced me to TPI advisory member Dr. Liam Hennessy, who is Paddy Harrington's trainer, has been for the last 20 years. And them two guys were a huge influence on me going a direction of my career, because I was doing something completely different. Like I had a environmental products company, and I wouldn't say I was enjoying it, but I was making a good living out of it. Probably wasn't playing as much golf as I'd like out of it. But when I met John and Liam and seeing all this stuff and how much my golf improved over it, it just gave me almost like I really want to do this with my life going forward. Like I want to help people. I felt like I could make a huge influence on people because I had made the mistakes, and I wanted to help kids coming up so they wouldn't make the same mistakes. But within the first 6-7 months of me working on my body, doing all the right stuff, working with John on my golf swing, like I won my first major championship. I won the State of Ireland, as you said, 2009, and made the Irish team for the first time. So that was like a huge ambition for me for my life, to play for Ireland, because I'm such a passionate Irishman, and just get so passionate about every sport that we play, and it's great when we see guys doing so well on the European Tour and on the USPGA Tour. So for me to play for Ireland was like a lifelong ambition, and I couldn't have done it without meeting John and Liam, and as I said, changing my body.
Yeah, I mean, what an honor to play for your country, play for the team that represents where you live, where you grew up, where you were born. And just the names that you've mentioned, I mean, most of us in the golf fitness world know these names, and obviously they know the name Patrick Harrington. So working with Liam and Liam working with Patty is a big honor, I'm sure. And for these guys to be the guys that are directing you on where to go, how to train yourself, but then also to inspire you to become, an example for the kids that are coming up in Ireland and teaching them. It's just a pretty cool story. Now, what are some of the things in your bio on your website? You mentioned that you also had to make just some dietary changes that were a big deal in helping you, move to the next level. What were some of the things that you had to change diet-wise? Because you said you were basically kind of training. I think the way you put it, your body looked more like a long-distance runner, and when you started to work on some of these things, eat a different way, you started to become more powerful, more stable, more mobile, and you started to look more like a sprinter. So kind of explain a little bit of the diet changes.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people made this mistake growing up. I kind of believed in the kind of carbohydrate diet. We were obviously told like lots of carbs, healthy carbs, pastas, stuff like that. And we thought when we were having porridge or cereal in the morning that we were eating healthy, which is obviously we know now that's not the case. So yeah, the first thing, like I'm not a big fan in diets. I'm a big fan in lifestyle changes. And the first lifestyle change that I make and that I follow right to this day is I substitute cereal and fruit in the morning for bacon and eggs, steak and eggs, some high protein food type with some healthy fats, which obviously is eggs and bacon and steak. So that was the first thing I changed, and I add a little bit of carbs to it, but it's mostly like spinach or something like that, or like some tomatoes or something like that. But that was the first change. I'm sticking to it still to this day.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest changes that I've made in my diet probably over the past several years. And same thing has made a huge difference. And I don't understand where we went wrong and why we think that cereal and oatmeal and all that stuff is great to start the morning when bacon and eggs they're just so good that, why would we not continue to eat this? But I think we kind of got off on the wrong track with fats and things like that. But, sticking with something, good proteins, veggies in the morning, which is kind of absurd for most people. But, I mean, I would say the veggies are a staple in my household, even for the kids. When they wake up in the morning, they know that they're having some cucumber or spinach or something like that. So, yeah, it made a big difference. What about for your performance level on the golf course? What kind of stuff do you take on the course with you, and has that changed, or have you continued to utilize the same stuff?
Yeah, I pretty much have the same stuff that I've had for years now. Basically, I try and have some kind of nuts and trail mix, and I try and mix it up down with some fruit. So, as you know yourself, Jeff, like if you're having some fruit on the golf course, it's always important to kind of stabilize your blood sugar levels with nuts or trail mix. So I'd probably have like a banana maybe every 6 holes. I would have some nuts and trail mix with that. I bring on some kind of turkey slices, chicken slices that they're readily available here in the shops and supermarkets over here and quite reasonable at price. So that's what I have on the golf course, and obviously like having lots of water is important out here. And I always try and put some kind of electrolyte in the water, because I found when I first started drinking lots of water on the golf course that I had to go to the toilet quite a lot. And basically the water was just going straight through me. But I found that adding some electrolytes to my water really helped me with that. So I was able to keep the water in a lot better.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think a lot of people do rely on just, the water jugs that are out on the courses. And we had Robert Yang on the show a little while back, and he mentioned, taking a little pinch of Celtic sea salt and dropping that in there to get some of the minerals and electrolytes to replenish yourself and just to help absorb like you said, back into the system. I know some people are fans of like the use of like a branched chain amino acid drink, like the BioSteel stuff or things like that. But something that's a little bit more than water, especially on the hot days. I'm actually right now I'm recording this in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and I played golf yesterday morning, and it was just very, very hot, warm, humid, and we were just basically leaking. So to have some of that, a little pinch in the water, or even if you're if you don't have any of that along with you, maybe take a little bit of a sports drink, mix that up, dilute it with some water is always a good trick to get a little extra something in you. Now, Robbie, I mentioned earlier that your body changed from the look of a long-distance runner to a sprinter, but it also happens to be that you are a sprinter, and you won a bronze in the 2013 200 meters. And I want to know what are some of the overlaps in training that you saw personally for yourself in your own training experience, but then what kind of stuff do you use with your clients in order to help build explosive power, speed, that type of stuff?
Yeah, well, I think the bronze medal that I won, I think I was quite fortunate. There wasn't that many people in the race, and and the people that were in the race really went that quick. But like it was fantastic to even compete for a couple of winters at sprinting. Like, it was a real buzz. How I got into sprinting, like I wasn't a sprinter when I was younger, but the facility where I train is it's actually the National Athletic Stadium here in Dublin, and like all the top sprinters in Ireland were training there daily. And I used to always love finishing my training sessions with some kind of sprint repeats. And all my friends there, the athletes, the sprinters, they were saying, yeah, you're pretty quick, but like your technique needs a bit of work. And so worked on my technique a little bit, found out I was pretty fast. And like the benefits that you get from sprinting it's just incredible. If I was going to say to somebody, if you've only got like 25, 30 minutes to do a training session, there's nothing better than sprinting, because the development in glute strength, explosive power you get from proper sprint mechanics is as I said, it's just there's nothing better in my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost like you get a little bit of everything. You get the power and explosiveness. You also get the cardiovascular benefit, because you get your heart rate up, you get your breathing is going. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that would be your option of choice, because today at the beach I decided I got to go do something. We're in a condo, but we don't really have a training facility here or anything, and so it's been a couple days since I've done anything athletic or physical working out wise. So I went and I was going to take a jog down the beach just to do something. And first of all, as I was jogging on the sand, it was harder than I remember. I haven't been on the beach jogging in a while, and so then I decided, well, I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to do a 30-second sprint, and then I'll just walk a little bit, and 30-second sprint and walk a little bit. And it was a little bit of a cop-out because the jogging was so hard, but the sprint, it just felt so good to get moving quick and challenging yourself with the sand and everything, and then taking those little walks. But I agree with you that just building that explosive power and adding that in after a weight training session or, just on its own can be super beneficial. All right, go ahead.
Jeff, like we're trying to make powerful athletes here as golfers. So to do that, you need to recruit fast twitch fibers, and that's exactly what sprinting does. So I'm not a big fan of sending people out for 20, 30-minute jogs. I'm a big fan if they can do 7 or 8 70 or 80 meter sprints at pretty high intensity. Like, that's going to help them recruit fast twitch fibers, which is what we're looking for. So it's a big part of my training programs for all my guys.
I 100% agree with that. And what are some other examples of, because I think people hear us say sprints and they think that they have to be out running on the track or running straight. What are some other great examples of sprints or high-intensity intervals that you would recommend for people?
Well, obviously you do a couple of, we've got soccer pitches here, and I think this is the easiest thing in the world for people. There's so many soccer pitches. I'm sure there's so many football pitches over in the States. Do a couple of laps of the pitches to warm up, do some dynamic mobility work, and then you can run from goal line to goal line at 70, 80% intensity, and then walk back. That is just it's nothing more simple than a sprint program like that. you don't have to overcomplicate it by running 150s or 200s, unless you're at a high level of sprinting. But if you're trying to, as I said, get a nice high intensity workout from sprinting, using a football pitch is just ideal.
Yeah, I think sometimes we look for something so complex and complicated that really just get out there, find an open field, and run. Get yourself warmed up, loosen up, and just do it. That's a great answer. We, a lot of times we'll use, because we don't always have access to something where they've got an open field, but or in the wintertime, you can do sprints on stationary bikes. You can do sprints on row machines. You can do all different kinds of things. So don't think that your sprint training has to be locked into running on a track or running on a field, or you can't get it done. I mean, you can do sprints in just about anything. Jump rope, anywhere you can find a little bit of space.
Rower, on a bike, you can do the Tabata workouts are great. 20-second on, 10-second off, repeat 8 times. That's another finisher that I love to use with my guys.
Yeah, the Tabatas are awesome. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about first your experience this past week, because I know you were over at the old course at St. Andrews with Shane, and I want you to just kind of give us an idea of what it was like to be there, and then how long were you there, what was your involvement, what kind of prep work were you guys doing?
Yeah, I got there on Monday lunchtime, and I left on Sunday afternoon, so I didn't stay around for the Monday finish. Generally with Shane, when I'm out on tour with him, we'll do probably 2 sessions on the say Tuesday and a Wednesday, and then depending on the tee times, we'll do another session which will be quite light. But when you're on tour, it's just the sessions are quite light. There's not a whole lot of weight being lifted. It's probably kind of 50% mobility work, 50% kind of stability work, and it's important when you don't train all winter, and then as soon as your first tournament starts, you stop. You have to keep training. All the good work that you do in the winter has to be maintained. So when we're out on tour, we try and just keep him ticking over, keep a nice maintenance level, and then on his off weeks, that's when we train that little bit harder.
So you basically kind of build the foundation in the off season, kind of ramp that up until the season starts, and then almost in a little bit of maintenance mode while he's traveling around, because those guys travel so much. And then you said on his off weeks, you guys will hit it a little bit harder. Yeah, we'll hit it a little bit harder. So he's got a couple of weeks off now. So we had a good session yesterday. He's actually PB'd yesterday in a couple of lifts, so he's doing great. We started work at the start of January, and just could not be happier with his progress, and he's really enjoying it, and his posture is so much better, and he's hitting the golf ball further. He's such a talented guy, and he's just going to be, in my opinion, he's going to be in the top 20 in the world for many years to come. How old is Shane?
He's 28. And he's got a huge career ahead of him.
I didn't realize, as I was looking up some background on him, that he won the Irish Open on the European Tour in 2009 as an amateur. That's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible, and you think there's not that many people that have done that. Off the top of my head, I think Phil Mickelson. Who else? Obviously Shane. I don't think anyone has done it on the European Tour. Oh, actually, another guy, Pablo Martin from Spain, he did it. But it's an incredible thing that he did, and I played a lot of amateur golf with him when he was younger, and I knew after 9 holes of playing with him, this guy is going to be a superstar. Really, and it was the same with Rory. When I played with Rory for the first time when he was 15, I said to my caddy after 6 or 7 holes, this guy's going to be a superstar. Now I didn't know he was going to be world number 1 and winning all these majors, but we knew then that he was going to be a big star. And it's the same with Shane. There was not much to kind of between them two when they were growing up. They're both as talented, and I've no doubt in my mind that Shane's going to win majors. That's pretty cool. I mean, how great for especially him as an amateur winning the Open of his home country. Like we said, playing for your own country. What an honor that must be. When you guys are when you were over there at the Open Championship, obviously, we watched it on TV here in the States, and the conditions changed a whole lot, and it's links golf at its purest at the old course. Can you give us a little idea of, what are some of the big differences between links golf and what we're used to here over in the States? And then do you guys change any kind of prep work going into a tournament like that?
I think the first thing for you guys, the difference is the temperature. Like even in Scotland, it was 5 degrees colder in Scotland than it was, say, in Dublin today. So that was the first thing that you kind of have to be aware of. Obviously, the golf ball is not going to go as far. Then, obviously, the wind is a huge factor. Like I've played a lot of golf in the States, and the ball is not affected as much in the United States than it is over here in Ireland and the UK. I think it's because the air is just a little bit different, and the wind just definitely makes the ball move a lot more through the air. So over here, we definitely try and keep the ball down a little bit more. But the modern day golf ball now, it's became so good that the ball it just goes through the wind so much better these days. But as I said, like the main considerations are temperature, how far the ball goes, and then obviously allowing for the wind. So I would imagine that the American players definitely try and allow for more wind when they come over here.
Sure. When you guys are getting ready for a tournament like that, with your guys that are playing on the PGA and then playing over there, is there any different kind of prep work going into a link style course physically, or is it more just strategically?
Yeah, I'd say it's just strategy. I think every player out here is so good. Like the difference between winning and losing is it's so small at times. But the guys over here, everybody is individual. They all have their own routine. So Shane does things a little bit different than, say, Zach Johnson. Adam Scott does things differently than Phil Mickelson. Everyone is completely different, and they all have their own individual strategy. They have their own individual prep. So, like, for example, Shane would have a certain amount of minutes for his warm-up. He would always arrive at the course exact time, and that's like clockwork. And it's the same with a lot of guys. So Mickelson likes to get there a few hours earlier. I noticed that Jordan Spieth was there quite a lot before his rounds. So everyone is different, and everyone has to. I think everyone at this stage of their careers knows what works really well for them, and they stick to it because they've had so much success. If you're playing in a British Open or on the PGA Tour, the European Tour, you're one heck of a player, and you know your routine, and that's what works for you may not work for somebody else. So for example, if Shane tried to change his routine a little bit, that may not work. Like him warming up for 3 hours just because Phil Mickelson warms up for 3 hours is not going to be good for him. So the player knows this, he knows what will work for him, and every single one of them have their routine right down to a T.
All right, speaking of routines, you informed me that you're playing a little golf tomorrow in a pretty big Irish tournament. So let's talk about your routine, being the fitness guy. What are the processes that you go through, even tonight, because it's about 10 p.m. over there. What's going to go on tonight? How do you get prepped for your rounds, and then what does your week entail?
Yeah, well, obviously this has actually not been ideal preparation for me because I was over at the Open. I didn't hit golf balls for a week. Didn't hit any golf balls until today. So that's not normally how I would prepare. But when I got back from St. Andrews, I had to work all day yesterday. So I had a lot of clients to go and see. At this stage of my life, my career is the most important thing. Obviously looking after the likes of Shane and some of the other guys and my everyday clients, they're my number one focus. My own golf has taken a back seat. I'm also doing a master's degree as well, so I basically have to just prioritize certain things, and my number one priority is my guys, and make sure that they get their preparation as good as possible. So I got here down to Lahinch. It was I did some work this morning, had a few guys in this morning, and made a 3.5 hour drive down to Dean Holes in. But actually hit the ball really, really good, and short game was a little bit rusty, but got better a little bit towards the end of the round. So, like, I'm sure I'm going to be okay tomorrow. But the great thing is my expectation levels are pretty low. And generally, when your expectation levels are low, that's generally when you pull off a good week. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. And what's the format of this tournament? Is it a 4-day, 2-day?
Yeah, they've kind of messed it around a little bit this year. It's becoming quite hard here for us, for working people to play these amateur events. They normally had this, is normally a straight match play. So you would arrive on a Saturday and play seven matches. So the final would be like on a Wednesday. But they've changed the format this year, and they've had 2 rounds stroke play qualifying, which is on tomorrow and Thursday. And then it goes into match play. So if you get to the final, you'll be here until Sunday. So it's tricky to try and balance working and playing golf. But as I said, it's the same for everybody. So starting off tomorrow 11 a.m. with 18 holes, I think the weather is meant to be pretty decent. It's right on the sea. If some of your viewers haven't come to Ireland and have not played Lahinch, it's one of our best courses. It's just breathtaking, and obviously it's the first championship that I won here, so it'll always have a special place in my heart. So I'm looking forward to getting out there tomorrow.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. I have a couple guys that just came back from a big trip over to Ireland. I think they spent eight separate days playing 8 different courses, so they've been raving about just everything over there. They love the countryside. They love playing all the golf. They love the courses. So I'll definitely have to ask them about that course and see what their thoughts were. I'm sure they loved it.
Yeah, like things are so great over here in Ireland now. Like obviously after the recession, things weren't that good. Euro got pretty strong. So my American friends and visitors weren't coming over to Ireland as much, but now the euro is kind of weakened and the dollar is so strong, and like the economy is doing pretty well here again. Everyone is in a really good mood and things are on the up. So we're having a lot more American visitors here, which is great to see. And like they have such a great time. Like they play great golf courses. They have a couple of pints of Guinness at night. And like we have really good hotels and restaurants over here. So they just have an absolute great time when they come over. So if any of your listeners have ever been wondering about where to go for a golfing holiday, like Ireland is just the perfect location.
Excellent. Yeah, my clients, they can't stop talking about it. In fact, so they've already passed on the information to a couple other guys as far as how they set up their trip and all that good stuff. So, but if you have any recommendations, I'll touch base with you afterwards. Any recommendations on who to talk to get over there and kind of see the place the way it should be seen, I'll definitely get that from you and pass that on to the listeners.
Yeah, one of TPI guys, Padraig Dooley. He's one of the most highly qualified TPI professionals actually out there anywhere around the world. He actually has a vacation company, so like his name is on the TPI website. So he's the guy that you want to talk to because he's got all the contacts and he will get you on the best golf courses around Ireland, and he'll definitely get you the best price. So. He's TPI, big part of the TPI family, so he's the guy that you want to check out.
Cool. I'll definitely touch base with him. All right, Robbie, I got a couple questions for you before you go. Just some standard ones that I love asking the 18 strong guests. First of all, are you more of a Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore fan?
I love Happy Gilmore.
Nice. Anybody affiliated with Padraig Harrington, I think, has to say Happy Gilmore also. I love watching Padraig do his Happy Gilmore impression. All right, when you first came across the 18 Strong website or podcast or however you first got in touch with us over here, what was your initial impression, or what would you say your initial definition that came to your mind when you saw the term 18 Strong?
Well, 18 Strong is being strong for 18 holes of golf, because there's no point being amazing on the golf course for 15 holes and then run out of gas the last 3. So 18 strong just tells me that you want to be strong for 18 holes, and maybe possibly 19 if you have to go for holes. But yeah, I think 18 strong is a really strong name, and basically that's what we're trying to do as golf fitness professionals. We're trying to make our clients strong so that they can play 18 holes of golf.
Absolutely. And so what else? What are some of the things that have you most excited about what's going on with Cannon Performance, your golf career over the next couple of months?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm also the strength and conditioning coach for the high performance of the Irish Ladies Golf Union. And we've had such a great start to the season here. We've had a lot of victories. We have a very special talent, a girl called Olivia Mahaffey. She's had 4 wins this season already, which is just incredible. So Irish ladies golf has gone from strength to strength. You may have heard of one of the Maguire twins who's done really well. She nearly won a ladies European Tour event here a few weeks ago. So not only do we have some special talent coming through on the men's section, we've also got some special talent coming through from the ladies, which is very exciting. It's probably something that we've never had before. So the head coach, Mr. David Kearney, he's doing a fantastic job. He's put together a high performance team that's just second to none. Everyone from psychology to putting to TrackMan, to me doing the strength and conditioning and nutrition. So it's a fantastic team that he's built up, and we're starting to get the rewards.
That's great, man. Sounds like you guys have a lot of great things going on over there. And then before we take off, what do you have one last piece of advice for the 18 Strong listeners before you go?
I think basically what I was touching on earlier on about everyone is individual, and you got to find out what works for you. I think you have to get, if you're in the gym, you have to get a screening off somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody who's highly qualified, obviously who's done a TPI course is obviously preferable, but finding somebody who has a degree in exercise physiology, strength and conditioning, and who has got golf fitness certifications as well, they're the people that you want to go to. Sometimes I'm just looking at the industry a little bit. There's people doing like a TPI course level 1, or doing like a personal training course for 6 weeks, and they think that they're qualified strength and conditioning coaches, and that they can go and actually train people. I think it's important that you find people who are very qualified and who know what they're doing, because I know myself, like, if you can mess up somebody pretty easy if you don't know what you're doing. So find somebody who's very qualified, get a screening, they'll put you on the right track to starting your golf fitness program. And as I said, then everyone is individual. What works, you have to find a little bit of trial and error sometimes to find out what works for you, and then go with it and stick to it. Routine is probably the most important thing that I see out on tour and with the top amateurs. They all have the same routine, and they have their own routine, but they stick to it over and over, and that's why they're successful.
That's great advice. The consistency of your training, consistency of putting in the effort, putting in the work, and knowing and finding out what's right for you. Robbie, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show tonight. I know you've got a lot of prep and need to get some rest for tomorrow's big match or big stroke play event. So we'll let you go here, but can't thank you enough. It was a great time chatting with you. Great to get to know you, and I look forward to catching up with you in the future.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I know we talked about doing this for a long time, so it's finally great to get it done. And thanks again for having me on. And hopefully, some of your listeners have got 1 or 2 points out that can help them with their training and their golf game going forward.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thanks a lot, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. As you can see, Robbie has definitely seen some major improvements in his golf game and changes in just his body and his health and everything since he began training a little bit differently, learning a lot more about how to train properly, and it's made a big difference in taking his golf game to the next level. And I think that's exactly what this podcast is about: teaching myself what are more efficient and better ways to do and achieve what we're trying to achieve. And once you have those tools, you're able to then take those and implement them in your game. Plus, just the fact that we get to meet people like Robbie, new personalities, people in the golf fitness world that we may not have come across. But here he is, a guy all the way over in Dublin, taking the time to help educate us. And I think his career and his clients speak for themselves. And Robbie's doing some great things in the world of golf. So, Robbie, can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I want to thank you guys for showing up for the 18 Strong podcast, as always. For more information on the website, the podcast, go over to 18strong.com. We've got a free gift over there for you. But also, we've got tons and tons of podcast episodes. This is the 48th episode of the 18 Strong podcast. So there's a lot of great guests in there that if you haven't listened to them all, go ahead and check them out. And if you want more information on how to find Robbie, check out Cannon Performance, or even look into a trip going over to Ireland. I have all that stuff linked up in there that we talked about in the show. So head on over to 18strong.com, look for Robbie Cannon in the search bar, and you'll find him, or just look up episode number 48, and you'll find his stuff. So as always, I want you to train hard, practice smart, and play better golf. I'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.